Ruth is the author of a fascinating article, Logical Pants Fitting, coming up in our summer 2022 issue. The top-down, center-out method she advocates is a new and I would say revolutionary approach to fitting pants. You're a first-time guest, so we haven't asked you our 5 questions, but we're going to put you through the 5 speedy question tests so that we can find out a little bit about you and your journey into sewing. Now, our first question is, how did you learn to sew?
Oh, thanks, Carol, and it's great to be here. So how I learned to sew, I consider myself a classic example of the self-taught sewer in the internet era. You know, and there's 2 elements to learning. One is information, getting hold of information, and one is sort of encouragement. And so the information comes from a variety of different sources. Even though it's the internet era, mostly still published material, books and magazines like Threads. I think I've now acquired nearly the entire back catalogue. PBS shows like Nancy Ziemann's PBS shows and Peggy Sager's, and also really the encouragement part and the conversation through social media sharing and conversations.
Yeah. I think that's how many people are doing it these days. Did you not have sewing when you were a student in school? Not at all. I think we did some sort of very basic stuff, but I think I didn't have any interest in it. Yeah. Well, that actually has happened to many people. They discover it much later in life.
I'm sure.
So, yeah. What are you currently sewing?
So right now I'm working on there's a new pattern company that just started, I think out of New York City, the Daughter Judy patterns, and they actually have a really great pants pattern, and this is my half toile, which I'm making right now.
Oh, fantastic. I'll have to look that up. That's one that I'm not familiar with right now. The next question is, what fabric do you enjoy sewing the most?
So fabric is super wonderful. I think the fabric I like the most is where cloth has 2 different color threads in it. You know, something in the warp and weft, different like Dupioni or chambray. But I would say maybe more generally a sort of cloth that is a blend, maybe of different fiber types even, where sort of it has emergent properties in the whole cloth that reinforce the best qualities of both.
That's really interesting. That is not an answer that we've gotten yet before, and I like it. So, what sewing word or term is your favorite?
Hard to pick. I think I'm going to go with 2. One is just simply the word swirl. So that's sort of using heat or steam to take something that's straight like a ribbon or straight binding and sort of make it curved, to press it into a curved shape. And I think I was thinking about this a lot, and the other one really has to be the word cut, simply the 3-letter word, C-U-T. And I think because when I started sewing, people would talk about the cut of the garment, and it sounded so sort of deliciously pretentious. And I always used to wonder, what exactly does it mean? And I think just through this whole process, I really came to understand that it was simply literally what it states, sort of the cutting of cloth, sort of in ways that allow it to be sewn back together again, and it creates the magic of 3D. So cut.
That is really fascinating. I have not thought about it because I agree with you. When I hear people say, oh, I just love the cut of that designer's clothing, I also thought, you don't know what you're talking about really when you say that. But I think it really kind of encompasses the idea of cutting the fabric so that it behaves in a way that looks great on the body. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. And finally, please share what you love best about sewing.
Sewing is great, I think, because there's something for everybody. So that if you're into engineering, there are the machines. I've taken apart a couple of sewing machines, put them back together again. There's the chemistry in the sort of the polymer science, the fibers. There's the technology. In fact, the first microscope was invented by Leeuwenhoek in Holland to look at a cloth, to magnify cloth. There's information science. There's sort of big data sets to look at population, size, and shape. It's fascinating as a puzzle. I always say it's like origami for adults. Sort of you're going from 2D to 3D with a more flexible substrate than paper. And the other thing, it's not necessarily apparel either. You might want to make items like a bag. And it's not just practical either. It's also artistic and creative. And sort of finally, the outcome is sort of the whole process, it's not just function. I think the process teaches you, or it helps you to develop self-reliance and perseverance. So there's so many great aspects to sewing.
I agree. That all makes a lot of good sense to me. And it sounds like it's coming from a scientist, which I really love. Thank you so much for answering the 5 questions, Ruth.